Hello, family. My name is James Trice, and I'm the creator of a podcast called YANA, or You Are Not Alone. You Are Not Alone is a podcast for Black men. It is more than just a podcast. It's a lifeline and a brotherhood. We're here to create a supportive, judgment-free space where Black men can have real, open conversations about what truly matters to us, from family and relationships to community, sports, culture, politics, faith, sex, race, education, and the challenges of everyday life. We dive deep into it all. Whether you're looking for advice, motivation, prayer, or just the comfort of knowing you're not walking this journey alone. YANA is here for you. This is your space to connect, grow, and be heard, because none of us are meant to do life alone. Look for new episodes weekly wherever you get your podcasts. And look for me on Instagram at jbtrice123. Welcome to YANA. Grace and peace, everyone. This is James Trice. Again, thank you for joining me on this this new episode of YANA, You Are Not Alone, a space for Black men to talk in a judgment-free space, uncensored, about the issues that matter most to us. It's a space where we can realize that we don't walk this journey of life alone. We're not meant to do life alone. So don't try to do this thing called life alone, brothers. Really connect with other brothers, other men, other Black men who can help us through this struggle that we face called life. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you for tuning in. And again, you can catch me new episodes every Thursday on YouTube. If you hit YouTube, go to YANA, YANA, my name, James Trice, and you'll be able to see episodes every Thursday. A new episode is posted on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple. Every Thursday is a new episode where you can listen as well. I ask that in both instances that you go, you like, you subscribe, you follow, you share. And the more you share this, brothers and sisters, we'll be able to get this out. And then you can also see some episodes on Facebook. If you go to Facebook, YANA, YANA, you can also see episodes on my Facebook page called YANA. All right, y'all. Thank you. And I want to welcome back to the show Kenneth Scales. We had him on a while ago, and I really was intrigued by some of the things he was saying. Matter of fact, everything he was saying. But one thing really stood out to me, beside his amazing business, is this idea that he really has this space that he's not only his clientele, his clients, the people who purchase his products, his beard products, his face products, all of his grooming products, that he also provides a space for Black men, or for men, period, really to support them, to help them realize again that they could talk about issues that matter to them. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. But I before we get into all of that, I just want to ask you a few more questions about your product and your website. I got a chance to really look into your website and saw the different products you had, the balms and the oils and all of that. And I actually got my bottle here, man, and I
All right.
put some on my face today. This is an amazing product, y'all. Go get
Thank
it.
you.
He's gonna talk
Yes.
more about that. But on your website, you define yourselves, you and your business partner,
Yeah.
as fatherpreneurs,
Absolutely.
father plus entrepreneurs. I've never heard that before.
Really.
How did that name come up?
Yeah. You know, starting off, when I started this business, I wasn't a father at all. Like I was just an entrepreneur. I was just like, how do I get these dope products in the hands of dope gentlemen who are looking to undry their beards and things of that nature. It didn't come real for me until I had my son. So I started this business in 2016. My son was born in 2018. And I was like kind of left with a decision like, do I shut down shop and focus on raising my child,
Mm-hmm.
or do I figure out a way that we can make this all work together? And so
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I picked the ladder. Like, how do we figure out a way to go out and continue to push the product, but also for the world to see that I'm also a father as well. And so there's been plenty of times where I brought my son to my pop-up shops. Now he's old enough. He'll be 7 coming up this week. Well, yep, this Sunday. And
Wow.
it just
Yeah.
feels really good to be able to bring him to the shops and teach him. And then my business partner, he's always been a business owner in the past. And so when we cross paths, we're like, hey, I definitely could use some help with the Bowtie Billionaire. You're a father. And then we always like tag team off one another. And he has 3 children, and we always talk about just our sons and his daughter, like, figure out a way if we can
Mhm.
incorporate them into the business. His daughter, she's a teenager, so like she does all things social media. So we're like, how do we activate her and her genius into social media? And then his 2 sons, his oldest son, had a beard before he even left high school. And so we're like, yo, how do we support your son? And so our kids could see what we're doing. And so we kind of merged the two together like this year. Like, we're both fathers. We both have a story. We both, do these pop-up shops and create products. But then also, we're also fathers to sons, right? And we're also fathers to our children and teaching them the next generation. So, it's never like I'm a father here, I'm an entrepreneur here. I just bring those two together and say we're fatherpreneurs. And it's a balance. Life is a balance and trying to balance, the two. But we've been making it work. We've been making it happen. So yeah,
Wow. So you came up with the name
yes.
Fatherpreneurs before you were a father.
No, actually, it didn't
Okay.
come to fruition until I became a father. All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
It
Okay.
didn't really come into saying out loud until like this year. I'm like, you know what? That's right. We are fatherpreneurs. So yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Also on your website, man, you mentioned a vision to redefine concepts of male confidence and
Yeah.
the experience of feeling like a billionaire. Could
Yes.
you elaborate on why this vision is important and why billionaire as opposed to like millionaire or something like that?
It's funny because I remember I was driving the car the other day, and I remember the old commercials. Like, the thing to be was a millionaire. Like, when you think about the lottery, like, if I had $1 million, right? And my mindset is like, why are we stopping on million, right? Why are we even stopping on billion? So when I thought about the concept of bow tie billionaire, I'm like, the bow tie is like what we represent. It represents style, represent class, it represents, patience, because you got to have patience
Mm-hmm.
to tie that thing. But then you also have to have patience in life. You also have to, come with a certain style. But then the billionaire is like something to aspire to, not a billionaire in its term of like being a billionaire, but also just having the mindset to think bigger and think better, not saying that billionaires are because they're billionaires they are smarter than the rest of the people in the world, but it's really just a concept. So when I think about our mantra, cloudy with a chance of billions, it's really that that rags to riches story. That you don't know when you start off, like the twists and turns and all the questions you might have with entrepreneurship. I definitely didn't know that as a father. I'm like, I don't know how to be a dad. But then I'm like, if I persevere, through these clouds, these gray clouds, then I know on the other side of the cloud is the chance of billions, right? The chance of billions, it could be, yeah, I will be a great dad. The chance of billions, my son will go to college. My son will be an entrepreneur. My son will follow in my footsteps. And so when I think about, men and their confidence, it's like thinking on a higher level, and not just thinking on a higher level, but also having that support wrapped around them to know that they're not alone. And that's why I love this podcast. You are not alone, right? And so it's just amazing. We're starting off with business. We're thinking we're just selling product, but then like it's a lifestyle, right? And so when we have gentlemen come up to our table, we slow down, and our men slow down, and they slow down and say, what got y'all to the point to do these oils, right? And then it opens up to a larger conversation about confidence,
Mm-hmm.
about men really paying more attention to their self-care, which we believe like self-care is also a sign of self-respect. for yourselves, right? And then also
Mm-hmm.
continue to push forward in life. And because there's a lot of narratives when it comes to manhood, there's a lot of narratives that come to Black fathers and just Black men in general. And not every day that we feel confident, that I feel confident, in my own skills and my own abilities, things that nature. It's just the environment that we live in, right? And this environment is like, you can't be man enough, you can't do this, you can't say that. And but one thing I do realize when we interact with men in our community is that we have voices, we have feelings, we love to feel good, we love to smell good, but we also love compliments as well. And so when we're at our pop-up shops, the first thing we do is give a compliment, a real authentic compliment. Hey, if you have a nice jacket on, hey brother, you got a really nice jacket. Oh man, thank
Mm-hmm.
you. And then it opens up the conversation to even more.
Mm-hmm.
We did a
Mm-hmm.
pop-up shop at Martin Patrick, I want to say about last month. And we had a gentleman, he came in and he had a really nice jacket. And we're like, yo, that's a nice jacket. He had a nice little beard. And he was really put together. But then as we started to continue to interact with him, he started to open up. He said, you wouldn't believe what I looked like last year. We was like, what? What's going on? He said, he said he lost over 150 pounds. And he's
Wow.
like,
Wow.
and then he showed us the picture and he's like how much he feels good about himself, like how much that he's able to fit in clothes that he wasn't able to fit before. He didn't feel confident when he was overweight, at all. But when he
Mm-hmm.
lost all that
Mm-hmm.
weight, he was at a point in his life where he's like, I'm ready to live life better, live life longer. And now I'm able to like find opportunities and just he said it
Mm-hmm.
just feels good just to come out here and walk around and shop because I couldn't do that last
Mm-hmm.
year, right? And he's like, and we talked about
Mm-hmm.
our stories, just as Black men and and that cloudy. And then now
Mm-hmm.
we're living in the overflow of the billions, right? The billions upon billions of blessings that that's falling down. And so just hearing that man's story of like how he overcame himself, and I think about all the other men that we were able to interact with and see. And then turn, we looked at young men, right? And it's like, I hope they don't have to go through the stuff and trials and tribulations that we went through, of becoming in manhood. We know we all have to go through something, but at least like, if we can catch them early enough, to help build their confidence, to
Mm-hmm.
continue to push forward. Because honestly, and it could go through so many different corridors, of like, why young men choose gangs or why they choose not to pursue higher education or, pursue something beyond themselves. But it takes somebody just to stop and say, hell, I see you, I recognize you, and I see where you can be, and I'm gonna be here walking by your side and with my hand on your shoulder and help you get to where you for sure go, right? Or wherever you want to go. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Let me elaborate on that because you
Yeah.
say in your website that what you say is what began as a passion for beard care has grown into a lifestyle brand rooted in confidence, culture, and ownership. Please talk more about that. Why did it go there as opposed to just like we got a product, we're selling the product, and
Yeah.
that's what we focused on. Why did you and your business partner begin to focus on that? Why is this important for Black men?
Yeah, I think confidence is it's the separation between where you are here and where you could be going, right? And so like I know folks that don't have a job, never held a job, but their confidence gets them through. And I know folks that have them high level jobs that go from job to job because their confidence is not there, right? And so for
Mm,
us, it was like, we could beat ourselves up over the head and say, yeah, we're gonna sell these products, and then sometimes we get in our heads and just like, you know what, we're not gonna push as hard as like we would today because we're looking outside of ourselves and saying like, you know what, I'm going to be affected by everything that's happening out here in the world. And until we take a stand, a real stand in our lives and say, you know what, no matter what goes on outside of these four walls, I'm still going to be great, right? No matter what happens, because me and my business partner, we understand that if we don't show up, as our true authentic selves, and the moments and times that we feel like we want to get down on ourselves or for whatever reasons, is that we want to make sure that we don't want to lose nobody through the cracks. And even the pop-up shop we did, I'm like, last time we did a pop-up shop, really engaged with our peoples was probably over a year ago. And I was like, for us coming out of, a hiatus, after this
Mm-hmm.
year, and I'm like, how many more people could we had to
Mm-hmm.
affect? How many more
Mm-hmm.
people could we had to continue to help with their confidence and things like that just by peer conversation? I'm like, yo, we don't want to take no days off. We need days off as black men. We need vacations. Like, right? We want to show folks that, this is a lifestyle, right? A lifestyle of confidence, a lifestyle of knowing that, you are enough, right? You are enough. Like the world says, hey, we have to take care of everything, but it's okay to have that black boy joy to say, you know what, it's time for a vacation. I don't have to work, right? I could take a vacation. I could take my kids out to the mall and, I could actually live life. And so that's what we're practicing right now in real time. And like also continue to remind these men, like, yes, you can be confident all day, great, but it's also okay to be vulnerable, right? To be vulnerable in your confidence, right? And so a lot of times we
Mm-hmm.
put on a certain facade of like, nah, I'm sad today, or I don't need to do this, or I don't. We could be as real and authentic, and so I think that's what we're walking out and we living out. And I'm like, in many more places and spaces that we can set up shop, and it's even me going to the barbershops. And I'm like, I told my business partner like a while ago, I'm like, what we're gonna do, we're gonna do barbershop tours, right? We're gonna go to barbershop to barbershop, have a list of barbershops that we go to,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna go and just have a peer conversation with the folks that are
Mm-hmm.
already in the room, right? And because the barbershops is a place, for us, like for me, myself personally, it's like therapy before we even knew black men knew about therapy, right? Or we knew about it, but we wasn't tapping into it. But like,
Yes.
you know,
Right.
and having the barbershop and just being able to talk about everyday life, without feeling judged, without just like this podcast, without feeling judged, without having to feel like we have to put on a facade, but we could be our true authentic selves. And I think that's what separates our company from a lot of other companies out here that that does that. I think we have the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
We have that humanistic. There's real humans behind this brand, right? Real humans that really care, not just about your
Mm-hmm.
looks, but definitely how you feel on the inside. And anything that we can do to continue to help build that confidence up, we're here for it. We're definitely here for it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, you talk about. I think I mentioned in there. You talk about the lifestyle being rooted in confidence, culture, and ownership.
yeah,
How are you and your business partner defining the culture?
yeah.
Please explain what that means.
Absolutely. So our culture really is we're not afraid to be our real selves, right? And so like if it's music, if it's artistry, like we try to figure out like all these music, if it's food, if it's,
Mm,
the way that we dress, like this is not a one size fit all for us when we think about our culture. And we think about it in our true way. And like when you think about corporate brands, they have to be in a way, they have to be suited and tied up, and we're not that, right? And in our culture, we feel like it's a new culture that's coming amongst us, right? Our new culture right now is like there's other cultures that says, hey, you should shave your beard off. Hey, you should, walk around and with your pants hanging, sagging off. Like
mm-hmm,
those old cultures and those old norms are, we don't fit those norms, right? And so
mm-hmm,
certainly we have a culture of being, in a place where we want to be successful, right? And we want to build
mm-hmm,
generational wealth. And what does that look like, right? And so when we even think about ownership, it's like, yes, and showing young people like you don't have to just stop at a certain level. Or if like my son, he loves football, he's like, dad, I want to be a football player. That's great, son, and I'm gonna encourage you all the way through. And I'm like, there is so many ways within that football. Like, yes, do you want to be on the field, do you want to be off the field? Like, what I mean, there's so much
right.
that you can learn, within the subject of football. And when we think
Mm-hmm,
about ownership, we think about having the opportunity to build our brand, and also continue to build that for the next generation. I just did matter of fact, like yesterday, I did a I was on a panel, and I talked about my business, and I had to go through like all the different business models, like how we started, what is our value proposition, and then got down to like the exit strategy. And when it came to the exit strategy, I almost teared up, even after I wrote the exit strategy and thought about it. And I said, our exit strategy is not about, walking away from the brand, but it's about really passing the baton. And when we're out and we're talking to folks and we're, instilling confidence and, selling products and things like that nature, that for us, that's a way of us passing the baton, and really like
Mm,
thinking about all the things that we know, like squeezing our stuff, squeezing all of our knowledge out to what we know to the next generation. When I first started this brand, I didn't know nothing about, I mean, I knew a little bit about business and things like that nature, but I had to fight tooth and nail to figure out where do I go get my bottle sourced? Where do I go get, the oils
mm,
from? And like, how do I bring all this stuff together? Where do I do my packaging and things? So when I got to the point where, and then there was definitely some gatekeepers out there that's like, no, I'm gonna need this for myself.
mm.
Like, we're not even in the same industry. So what is it, what does it do for you that, if I'm delayed? So I always said to myself, like, once I get to the point in a opportunity where I get a chance to learn about the ins and outs of sourcing and doing this business, I definitely want to help other people. So like over the years, there was other companies that popped up like, hey Ken, I was thinking about doing my own beard oil and things of that nature. I said, oh really? And I go down the whole list. Like, have you been here? Have you been here? Have you been here? Because that in a way,
Mm.
it's a way that we're passing that baton and we're not gatekeeping none of the information that we have. I'm like, again, like I always say, like, no, you can't get my exact recipe, but I can tell you where to go source your products from and things of that nature. So, but yeah, definitely confidence and then, rooted in, in culture. And I think the culture piece is really big for us right
Yes.
now. And storytelling, the art of storytelling is part of our culture. And we're bringing all these things together and I'm excited. I'm really excited about the future, and I'm excited about right now. And even the stories that we're telling. So we just told a story just recently about the comeback season, and I'm not sure if I said that the last time, but we were on the bark of the comeback season of our basically telling our story. So I was basically telling our story of our business partner, where it's his comeback season right now. He wasn't. He's not. He's been sick. And so he's like, yo, Ken, like, you know what? Like, I'm coming back. I'm fighting. He's like, we a part of this thing. We a little gang. We a mini gang. And I said, yo, I love your show. Like, so I asked him, how did he feel in each and every section of the time? Like, how do you battle back, mentally? How do you battle back physically? Like, how are you making it day to day? And so we took that and we made a story about and made a general story for other folks that are also in their comeback season. Maybe they might coming back from a sickness. They might be coming back from being incarcerated, and now they're trying to get back
Mm.
on their feet. They might be their comeback of like maybe going back to school or starting that business. Like this is something that everyone could relate to and resonate. And when I put the fillers out there, like, yo, is this your comeback season? There was a lot of people said like, yo, this year is their comeback season. So that open up the door for more discussion. Now we're not selling product. Now what we're doing now is creating that platform for the lifestyle of the culture of like, okay, our peoples that purchase our product, we identify that we're coming back. This is our comeback season, and what does that look like? And to be able to tell those stories in an authentic way. And it's amazing. I'm like, the products they're gonna sell on their own, but I'm like, the real passion here is hearing people's stories and getting their stories out there for the masses because I think our stories, and especially as Black men, we don't realize how much and big of an impact telling our story is,
That's right.
Black men. And I learned from so many other folks and hearing their stories, and it helps me with my confidence. I'm like, what? If you could go through that and still show up, I know I can do it too. So yeah,
Why is it important for black men to have self care, to take care of ourselves? And then give
absolutely.
some, there's the three questions, and give a couple more stories. Talk
Yeah.
about why it is important for black men to have self care and to engage in self care. And then talk
Yes.
about some examples of what self care looks like for us.
Absolutely. One story that raises, a high for me is me and my business partner, we did a pop-up shop at the orchestra. And so the orchestra, it's not really, I mean, they've been well more open to, and it's
Are
not
are you
the
saying Orchestra Hall?
yeah, orchestra hall, right? And
Yeah,
so generally we don't think orchestra is a black space, right? When you think about the orchestra, you don't see hardly any of us in there, like, and so I know they've been doing a lot of work and like trying to get more black folks to expose to this. And so we were able to do a pop-up shop with them, part of their summer series. And so we did like a maybe like a week residency, and it was us and like like a handful other black business owners and things of that nature. And it was a really amazing opportunity for us to be exposed to the orchestra, right? And I remember as we were, selling products and things like that nature, a mom came over, and older black woman came over. She's like, "Hey, what do you guys sell?" And so we're telling her, we got these beard oil products. She said, "I have a son, older son. He lives at home. He has a lot of like mental health challenges that he's having." And so, but she was like, "But I want him to feel good about himself. I know he has a beard, and I want to get this product for him." And it was again, it was like a week, series that they had at orchestra. So she brought some of our products. Next thing I know, I want to say like 2 days later, she comes back to our table. She's like, "Hey, you guys remember y'all I had the beard oil?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do remember you." She's like, "Here's my son right here." She's like, "This is the first time he's been out the house." And like, I think she said like, and then within a month, and he didn't feel like, like he was worthy enough, and he didn't, there's a lot of stuff going on. She said, "This is the first time he got dressed up. When I gave
that's
him the
wonderful.
product, and he was able to put it in,
That's
and
wonderful.
and I seen that, and I shook his hand. I'm like, 'Yo, how do you feel?' And she's like, and she started crying, and she's like, 'Thank you all for like helping me.'" Sorry. It's like, "Thank you all for like helping me realize that I didn't realize that my son like really needed this." And so I just gave it to him as a gift, and I didn't know the magic that was probably in the bottle, but for him to feel confident about himself. So when me and my business partner looked at that, we were like, "Dog, like, this is beyond just what we have here in the bottle." And like, I think that's kind of what sparked our interest even more to like really go out. And we don't hunt for stories, they just come to us, right?
Mm.
And so when I think about self-care and why men should continue to, utilize self-care, because when I think of myself, it's like, I have one wash rag, maybe two wash rags, right? Don't say, you wash with your soap on your hand. No, when I think about that, like I don't have a real facial routine, right? I wash my hand, wash my face with soap, have body wash. And so many companies have this one-step process, like, this product can do for your hair, it can do for your face and the rest of your body. That cuts out a lot of things that we can possibly do for self-care. One, take a shower. That's definitely, that's standard, right? Self-care. But then when you break it down to the point where you've identified different parts of your body that you want to self-care, one, I go get my feet done. And right. And so when I go get my feet done, I'm showing everybody, "Yo, it's not less manly to go get your feet done." When I first got done, I'm like, I had no idea it feels this
So
good.
you get a pedicure, huh?
Yeah, I get a pedicure. I'm like, "Man, it feel good." And so you know what my excuse is? I was like, "Oh, it's because I'm going out of town. I want my toes to be shining." But I'm like, it is good just to do it. And I took my son to go get his feet done one time. He's like, "Dad, can we go get our feet done again?" I'm like, "Yeah." Right. And so self-care is like
That's
beyond
wonderful.
just getting a haircut, right? I think that's a lot of men's version of self-care is getting a haircut, which we all feel good getting a haircut. But then also taking that step further, it's like I feel way more better when I get a haircut. See, there's this couple comedians. They always talk about like how men we be feeling low between haircuts. We'd be like, "Hey, hey, how you doing?" But as soon as we get a haircut, our eyes get dimmer. We take our glasses off. We LL Cool J out here, and then our confidence is through the roof, right? And so it's important for us to, to do self-care because, like, again, it's a sign of self-respect, right? And self-care also is not just what you do for yourself on your body, but it's also when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? If you're praying, great, but make your bed up. That's a sign of self-care. And I teach my son this always, like, I'm like, "Son, your bed is not made up. I see what you did there, but like, son, you got to turn that, you got to do it the right way." And I'm like, "Son, you don't want to cheat yourself." Don't don't cheat yourself out of this opportunity of being a better person, a better version of yourself today. You know what I mean? And so when I think about men and self-care, I always would say, don't cheat yourself, right? If it's not less manly going getting your feet done, right? Of course, if you have a beard, if you shave, definitely keep up with your maintenance, right? But also think about self further, like what else do we need for self-care, right? It could be our mental, like simple as reading a book, or if not reading the book, audio books. Like, what are we doing to better ourselves, to be better versions of ourselves, right? And self-care is rooted in that. It's self-confidence, self-care rooted in self-respect. And I think that's what, if a lot of men realize, how much of, and then also when you also doing that self-care, you don't know who's looking at you. I got a son that sees me brushing my hair, and things of that nature. You never know. And I just had this another discussion with my business partner. We talk very often, and we talked about like he talked about like how he'll show up to church, or he show up and he's like, man, random people will come up to him like, man, I look up to you. He's like, I never even had a sentence with this person. Had no idea. But you just never know who's looking up to you. And I think a lot of men we have to know, like, there's somebody looking up to us, even though we may not know, but somebody's always watching, right?
Yeah.
Someone's always watching. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to just, if I could, elaborate on some of the self care that I think is really critically important is for us to go to the doctor,
Yes.
for us to get checked out, particularly the older men, getting their prostate checked, their PSI checked, and really going to the doctor and taking care of yourself. Taking some time off work. I mean, you talked about it
Yeah.
just a second ago about taking some time off work and taking some time to yourself, go on a vacation, take a walk, right?
Yes.
Breathe, like you said, reading books. But it's important for us to do self care, particularly, I think, in an environment that sees us as less than human. We live
Yeah.
in a society that minimizes our humanity,
Mm.
and sees us as villains. Um, and so therefore it is important for us to take care of ourselves. And I see that you and your business partner are doing some of that work and helping black men to begin to think better of ourselves and to take care of ourselves and appreciate who we are, uh, against the overwhelming plethora of negative stereotypes that America harbors about black men. And you all are doing some of that work.
I'm thinking about the murder of George Floyd and how tragic that was, and how our community rallied together. And, there was a lot of folks that said, check on a black man in your life, right? Check on somebody. And I remember,
Yes.
and it was a social media like thing. And I remember how many text messages I got that came in. Hey, brother, just checking on you. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And, but I realized that I don't see none of those same people still checking in on me, right? Like, I'm like, it
Mm.
doesn't take a tragedy, of that magnitude, or any tragedy at all, that should reach out and check on somebody. And I'm looking at and thinking, like, how can we continue to reach out and check on folks? And James, I'm thankful, for your WhatsApp, and the check-ins. I'm always looking in and like seeing what the scripture of the day is. I'm like, I mean, do you realize how much that also with me is like, that I tap into that and I'm like, this is really good, this is positive. I'm like, God, what do you have for me to say? Or what do you have for me to listen to or see today? And when I open up those messages, I'm like, I feel supported, right? And I'm like, how do we allow other men, to feel that support, And it could be something real that I'm going through, and it just might be a scripture that is talking directly to what I'm going through. And I'm like, you know what? It is all right.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
I thank you. As we're sitting there talking, man, you know what came to my mind is, why don't we do something together,
Let's do
right?
it.
The Bowtie
Collaborate.
Billionaires and YANA, you are not alone.
Yeah.
Do something together to bring men together, like you said, happy hour or something like that. Meet at a restaurant or meet somewhere where we just have the brothers just come together and just
Yeah.
just hang out and fellowship and talk. We're not we're not a monolith,
Yeah.
but we, I think each and every one of us have something to say. Each and every one of us has a story to tell,
I love
and all we need to do is listen to each other. I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing is listening to one another and hearing our stories and appreciating each other, even if we have again we have different thoughts and ideas about things. Right. The issue is I don't have to like what you like to like you. Right. I can like you and not like what you like. Right.
Yes.
I just want to say, I have boycotted the NFL since Colin Kaepernick. Right, I have
Mm.
not watched an NFL game in my home
Yeah.
since they sat Colin Kaepernick down and basically blackballed him from the NFL. I have not watched the NFL,
Yeah.
but that don't mean I don't hang out with brothers who like football. They even talk about it, and I may
Yeah.
talk about some of the teams that I like. Being in Chicago and the Bears is my team, but I cannot watch them in my home. Now
That's
that
right.
doesn't mean if I go out to a restaurant and the game is on that I don't pay attention to the game, but
Yeah.
it's not getting my any airtime in my home. I do not
Yeah.
watch it.
And it's
Right?
part of self-care. It's part of self-care is tune out
It
those
is.
that harmed us for so
That
many,
is
so
part
many.
of self care. It's part of
Absolutely.
self care. So let
Yeah.
me ask you this. There's two more questions I want. Discuss the experiences, challenges, and advantages of being a young black entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and also as a young black man
Yeah.
being a resource, a source where other black men
Yeah.
can really come to and feel like they can talk to. Talk about that. So
Yeah.
first of all, the your the challenges and advantages of being a young black
Yeah.
entrepreneur, and then being
Absolutely.
that space, being sitting in that space for black men as a resource for them.
Yeah. One of the challenges, as being a young entrepreneur, I think a lot of challenges was between my ears, what's in my head. And the biggest
Mm.
thing is like getting out of my head, like you said, like, reaching out for help. Because a lot of times, me as a man, I have pride. I'm like, God, break that pride. Sometimes I don't want to reach out for help. I'm like, I can figure it out on my own. But then I realize I can't do it by myself, And then when I look out into the ecosystem, of, just what it means to be a black man in the society, I would love to think that it got easier, but it looked like it's getting harder by the day, and
Yes.
it's really challenging to try to walk forward and be in its positive light when there's so much stuff that's happening around us. But one thing I have to do is continue to look up, to God, look up to the hills, which comes my help, right? And for some folks, it might sound cliche, but for me, this is the only thing that I know that could get me back, on my solid ground, And just when I think about black men in general, is that we don't have enough examples, or we because of the examples that we thought we had, you know, they made some bad choices, some bad decisions, and then you see them going down a whole nother rabbit hole. And then one of the other things I want to talk about with even with fatherhood is that a lot of people think like, oh, when you have a child that the dad runs away. One thing I do see is there's a lot of fathers that step up, right? There's not a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of dads that are, in each other child's life, the ecosystem of all the things that are happening around that tunes out the dads that are actually there, the
That's
stories,
right.
the stories that, that are that you see on social media of this, that, they're like, you don't see enough positive images. And when you think about who's controlling media and the images of, this positivity that black men are actually here, they don't want us to see us, succeed. They don't want
No,
us
they don't.
that image. And so when I think about those as a challenge, I'm like, challenge well accepted, because I'm going to be the total opposite of what you think. I'm going to be the total opposite.
Yes.
And I'm going to show
Yes.
my community that this is me as
Yes.
a father. This is me as an entrepreneur. This is me on my off day, and this is me on my on day, right? I have to be that. And when I think about other men, just being that real life example, for our community, and also linking up with other brothers that are also doing really great things in community, but also because we all share that story. We all see, what the media paint us as black men, but then
Yeah.
I'm wrapped around folks that are the total opposite of that, and to continue to live our best selves and show our best selves out here. I think one of the other narratives is that black men don't like to talk. When we don't like to talk, we don't like to open up. We will when it's just a safe space, right? When me and my guys
Yeah.
come together, we talk about any and everything, right?
Yes.
We have to have a
Yes.
safe space. And I think that is also a gift and also the challenge of finding that safe space, for us because, we're so used to, having to put this shield on, to go out and save the world. But what good is it if we try to save the world if we can't even save ourselves, right? And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, but as a young black man and an entrepreneur, I feel like it is my responsibility. I take ownership of myself, and I take ownership of being a black man and living in that positive light because I'm not when I send my son to school, I'm not just sending him to school. He's also going to school with other kids. So I not only am I raising him, but if I see some other kids wrapping around him, I'm also engaging them as well, right? Because
Yes.
all of those young people affect, who my son is ultimately going to be. And then also have to look at who I surround myself around. And then hopefully if somebody's, if they see me and their life is on a whole different trajectory, a lot of times I'm always open, like, yo, how did you, do this? Like, there's a guy that he comes and he mows my lawn every now and again, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm tapping into him. I'm like, I like what you're doing here. I'm like, I like it. I'm supporting. But I'm like, have you ever thought about getting your own LLC? So anything that you purchase for yourself, like, I'll be your first customer. I'll walk you through like how to get your LLC,
That's wonderful.
that name. And,
That's wonderful.
hopefully he could take that information and start tapping into a lot of the things that are out here, because he does a
Right.
good job, right? And so I think that's the gift that we have as well, that we have access to the knowledge, and now we're also passing that baton, giving other people that knowledge who may not had an opportunity for anybody to take the money and the wing to even do that. So
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
I appreciate you so much because I want to just let our audience know that this is the norm. This is not this is what majority of us are.
Yeah.
Uh, we're not what society says we are. It's
Yeah.
not. We're not the negative stereotypes that America has of black people, of black men.
Yeah.
Most of us are taking care of our children. Most of us are fathers and good fathers in our homes. Most of us have good relationships with either our wives or women. We have good. Most of us are
Yeah.
doing good. It's a few of us who are doing all of the negative things that society says we're doing, but that's not the norm. The norm is what you all are doing, but this is the norm. This is what we need to promote, and this is what needs to be seen to the world. And we need to continue to show that this is the norm. The other stuff is not. And so, as we close here, what final words would you say to black men who are listening to us right now?
Mhm. Black man, I love you. I love you. Reach out to another brother and tell him that you love him. Life is too short, but we're here. We're standing right here in the gap, and we're here with open arms. Reach out to a brother in your life. Tell him that you love him. Take him out. And hang out. Because we need each other. We need each other way, way more than we ever needed each other before, and
Yes,
continue to be great. And being great doesn't mean you have to go out and make $1 million or $1 billion or anything like that. But find something that that you're good at and continue to work that thing. Work it. And don't forget your self-care. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, whatever that looks, and do something new that you had never done. If you never got your feet done, go get your feet done. Never
yes,
got your nails done, go get your nails done. Right? It doesn't make you less of a man. Now that you're discovering, self-care for yourself, and you go out, and once you got it, you go out and pass the baton to somebody else. So
yes.
yeah.
Thank you so much, brother, for joining me again. And I'm definitely going to have you come back. And then let's talk offline about us connecting and doing something together. I really
Let's do it.
appreciate. I really
Yeah.
want to do that. Thank you so much, everyone who's tuned in to this episode of Yana. You are not alone with guest Kenneth Scales, Bowtie Billionaires. Go to his product. You want to give your product information out again, the website, and uh,
Absolutely.
give that out again so people can go to it and purchase your product.
Absolutely. You can find us at the Bowtie Billionaire on all social media platforms, Instagram. Well, we're going to be creating some TikTok videos and things of that nature. You can also find us on our website, www.thebowtiebillionaire.com. Thank y'all
All
so
right.
much for having me. Thank you, James. Man, this is amazing.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you again, audience, for joining. And remember, don't try to do this life alone. We're not meant to do life alone. Grace and peace, everyone. Until next time, take care of yourself. Yana is here for you. This is your space to connect, grow, and be heard because none of us are meant to do life alone.